Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Great People Interview Series. And I'm so glad to bring you people from completely different profiles all together. And today we have with us Darren. Welcome, Darren, to Great People Interview Series.
Sachin, very good morning. Good to be here. Thank you very much for the invite.
Cheers. So Darren has been providing technical solutions to health and social care organizations for over a couple of decades, as well as leading the team that rolled out some of the early, joined up social projects, now, widely adopted internationally. Is passionate about technology to make progressive changes. And, with that small introduction, I would, go back to Darren and ask him, to elaborate what you do and what's your current goal, if I may.
Certainly, yeah. So just to sort of reiterate what you started with there, Sachin, I've been providing technology solutions together with various teams and various businesses to health and social care providers for almost 25 years. I don't know where the time's gone, but yeah, and also some of the very early joined up social prescribing sites, pan London, so 5 sites across London working with clinical commissioning teams and sending patient activation measure data up to the National Frailty Index. And of course, those are now widely adopted. We have social prescribers working within the NHS here in the UK that ultimately prescribe alternative to a GP or medication, things like green gyms, health, mental health, and mental health awareness, essentially, and lots of other things that a GP would not necessarily prescribe. So we did a lot of that work.
Fantastic.
Going back at 8 years or so. And again, a little over 2 years ago, I was providing some consultancy and business development for quite a large business in London. But at the same time, my wife and my sister-in-law were primary carers for my mother-in-law, Mohinder, who had a very aggressive form of Lewy body dementia.
Right.
And it was a pretty awful time for the whole family, but it was aggressive and it culminated in death. And what happened effectively was, after the funeral, we were going through some family photo albums, and my son, who was 11 at the time, questioned my wife, "Who's that? Who's this?" And she didn't have the answers. And unfortunately, she lost her dad some years before. And we questioned her sister, we questioned her brother, and various other family members here in the UK, and no one had the answers. So with that family history, it is gone. We can't, there's no way of getting that back, because that generation has now gone. And my son actually, so all due credit to Dylan, said to me, "Dad, you work in technology, can't you do something that will benefit other families?" Words to that nature. And that was really the start of Aftercloud.
Wow, brilliant. And I think you also had, some part of the family from Punjab in India, you said?
That's right. Yeah, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law came from Punjab over to the UK. And my wife is British-born, Indian. Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, I think it's so interesting. And what you're creating, and I think you call it Moments, is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, it was, the first iteration was called Aftercloud. So we started with Aftercloud, which has now become an umbrella brand, because we have 3 apps, which I'll explain. But the first iteration was really what we could do for people at the end of life. That was our lived experience. And I had no notion of this, but there's this. It's a box, effectively, called a memory box, which is a physical item that people receiving palliative care or end of life they'll write letters, birthday cards for future events. And then
Right.
they're put into a memory box, and then the memory box is stored somewhere, and then every year they'll take something out of it. And we thought about it, and we thought, well, actually, we can digitize this. So we created a digital memory box, which at the time was called Aftercloud.
Wow.
During
Brilliant.
our during our beta trial, we betaed with a couple of hundred users in various settings, community and hospice and the like. And we got feedback to the effect, and we iterated, of course, but we got feedback to the effect that it would be great if we could see these moments plotted chronologically, because in the app we called it Moments,
Right.
where you could collate multiple content types. So lots of different multimedia sets, letters, audio, video, images.
Wow. Fantastic.
Collectively all together.
Yeah.
And then post to a future date. So that had never been done in an app. But similarly, it's a closed group setting. So you can only invite people in to share information with. So it's private, closed group, secure.
Yeah.
And then we also have what we call a companion feature, so that if someone doesn't have cognitive ability or dexterity or whatever the situation is, they can ask a trusted third party to act as their companion. And anyway, through that feedback, we created timelines. And timelines is our second app. And that does exactly what it says. It creates a chronological timeline to create a life story effectively.
Oh, brilliant. So how do you reach out to people who would, want to use your app? Who is your target audience and how do you reach out to them?
It's a great question. It's iterated again. It's fascinating because I think what happens is when you create something technical, people will utilize it for different things according to what their behavioral patterns are or what they want to do with it. And what we found was that it was being utilized for people, not necessarily at end of life or in receipt of palliative care, but people living with dementia. So again, they can set reminders, they can record GP appointments and share it with their loved ones, just so that they can understand a little bit more what's going on. And we have 3 research projects looking at enabling people living with dementia to share activities, but also looking to improve cognitive recall. Again, looking at timelines, we can plot chronologically to create that life story, but equally, if we involve music in that process, it has a great ability to enhance that memory recall and take people back on that journey. In fact, there's a paper written by Professor Christopher Johnson of Texas State University, who we're working with, on time travel. Now, it's not time travel as you and I would understand it, Back to the Future. It's time travel in the mind of someone living with dementia. In that, in their mind, they will actually travel back in time to being 20 years old. And this is what creates confusion when they look in the mirror and they see an older person, but mentally they're still 20 or 25 or whatever the situation is. So what we're looking to do is enhance that memory so that we can plot additional activities and moments onto their timeline, but also help and aid them through data and data resource.
So how do you monetize this? How do you take care of the commercial angle? Is it going to the end users who would like to use your app, or you reach out to organizations who will adopt and give it to the users for free?
That's another good question. So it's a bit of both. Both apps are available to download from the App Store. So Aftercloud Moments, Aftercloud Timelines are available for the public. But we're also ORCA registered. So we're on the Digital Health App Library for the NHS.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So the apps can effectively be sociably prescribed to anyone with a life-limiting illness. We've got another research project happening in Bedfordshire University with Professor David Hewson, working with occupational therapists. It's part of the Healthy Aging initiatives, And through the Health Aging faculty, what they're doing is taking people living with dementia out of their closed environment into the open air for gardening or cycling or golf, things that sort of impact or have an impact. And they're using moments to share those activities with friends and family. So to answer your question, we have two models. We have a B2B2C model, so that companies, care organizations can adopt and utilize timelines for life story work, which is important and imperative in those scenarios. And we're talking with lots of organizations now that support people living with dementia. So it's a bit of both. And hospices, of course, is a very important market segment for us too.
Right. So what has been the biggest challenge, and how did you overcome that challenge?
I think a challenge that every one of us have faced in the last 2 years is COVID.
Yeah.
Working in a digital environment, I think it's two things I think it's done actually. One is that it's lent itself, I think, to the older population becoming a lot more technically savvy. I think pre-pandemic, a lot of older people sort of would shy away from technology. Whereas I think during this, the last 2 years, they've adopted technology a lot more. I mean, most older people now are quite au fait with, the likes of Zoom as an example, as we are today, and other meeting platforms. And similarly, digital technology and the use of mobiles. I mean, I take my own mum as an example. We WhatsApp. Just so that we can talk amongst the family together now, which is great. It's fantastic. So yeah, they've adopted it. And the other thing I think COVID has done is it's made everyone implicitly aware of their own mortality. It's sort of shone a light on the fact that we all have an endpoint, and there is a transition date. We just don't know when it is.
Yeah, we know that, but we still tend to ignore in our day-to-day life. And these kind of situations would, that remind us, hey, you know it, but you're not doing anything about it.
Well, exactly.
Point, but what are you doing about it?
Yeah, even the word death, people sort of shy away from, thinking they're going to, catch it like a cold, and it's just not. It's going to happen one day for all of us, So COVID presented a challenge, to answer your question, and I think similarly, I guess going back to your earlier question, is market attraction. I think is getting out there to the right people to make sure that the technology is in the right hands and helping the right types of people.
Yeah. So, one of the stories that, I read through, your stories, of course, is this, the person who is in early 30s and he's actually dying, and he's probably helpless to an extent that he can't even record his own stuff to store for, the future. Somebody who is in early 30s is probably going to have a baby which is too young to remember anything, and this guy used the companion feature from your app, and somebody else who was the companion actually helped that dying person to record whatever he wanted to record. And it's that moment, as you rightly say, has been captured. Memory has been created for future. So when those babies grow up, this guy is not going to be there, but then he's created those memories, and he can say to them what he wanted to say, even if it's not there. So I can't believe 15 years down the line, the person is not going to be there. The babies are going to be in their, teenage, and they're going to go through this app and see the father, and he is saying something to them. I mean, it's just unbelievable, what is doing to somebody's life. And end of the day, it's an app, it's a video, it's a photograph or whatever, audio, and that's all you're going to record. Nothing rocket science, but the way you have glued everything together and given it a purpose, I think that's brilliant.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind. It actually goes on from there in that, and this wasn't by design originally, but what we found is that creating these life stories, so creating those individual moments that can then be plotted effectively chronologically, it creates that life story. But what it also does is it creates a legacy. So we're now working with funeral directors, as an example. Memorial masons is another that we're working with, because when we publish a timeline, we also publish a unique QR code for that individual, and that can be shared with family, friends. It can be placed in a place of remembrance. Future generations can now look back on those life stories. So we're not just looking back at black and white content like the old days of sort of looking at our family history through family trees and ancestral roots and finding a one document. This is looking back potentially at a full life history and full rich multimedia. So we're sort of changing genealogy in a way as well. It was never envisaged in that sense, but that sort of end-to-end process is where we're going, really. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm quite excited to understand more about this whole idea. So I'm just trying to go a little more technical. So this After Crowd is a brand, and you have 3 apps, right?
We do, and I haven't mentioned the third.
Okay, so the first one, is it available to download?
It is, yeah. It's Moments, After Cloud Moments. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's free to download, free to use.
Okay.
But if you publish up to a year in advance, so I think it's available for free for the first month or 2 months or something. Yeah, but the way we monetize, and this goes back to your earlier question, is if somebody wants to post a year in advance, as an example, or 3 years or 5 years, then there is associated cost to that. So it's £60 for the year, so £5 a month effectively to utilize and post content to the future. Timelines is priced slightly differently in that it's £3.99 a month.
Okay.
But you can have 3 timelines for that. So, 3 members of the family, and then it's banded according to, 5, 7, depending upon how many timelines you have. And that's 14 days free, but then it adds that, price point and charging mechanism. And our third app came about quite by chance. I've been judging the Great British Care Show Awards for a number of years, together with many other great judges. And last year, they assigned me the children's category. And I'd always previously been adult social care, so adult services. And anyway, I judged the category with some other judges. And at the award ceremony, I started chatting to a chap called Martin, who was an award winner, care home manager, fantastic residential care home for children, outstanding rated through Ofsted. And we started chatting, and when you question someone, what do you do, etc. And he learned about After Cloud Moments, and he said, we do something like that, but we can only share images, and it's a bit clunky, it's web-based. And I said, well, you can do a lot more than that these days in an app. Yeah. And he then said to me, well, can we trial it? So we said, yeah, absolutely. We gave them a 2-month, I think it actually extended to 3 months pilot of our Moments app.
Okay.
And they loved it. So we iterated it a little bit for children's services. It's closed. You can't download it from the App Store. It's a due process because it's children's services.
Right.
But the companion feature lends itself particularly well for looked after children, where you have the team around the child, or a key worker, or a supervisor,
Right.
to act on behalf of that child. So yeah, they adopted it and they've rolled it out now, and it's called Journals.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. As I say, not by design, it came about by a chance, but it was fantastic.
No, that's fantastic. Well, your app is in the NHS as well, and I think what do we call it, Orcha, which is the digital
Orca.
app library. Orca.
Orca, yeah, ORCHA. And I have to say, thanks to the Alzheimer's Scotland, who we've been working with, because they were the ones really that put it forward for Orca registration and approval, so that it can be sociably prescribed for people living with dementia. But equally, anyone with a life-limiting illness. We're working with a number of organizations now that support, people that are diagnosed with cancer, as an example. We have quite a large charity in the States that we're working with. We're working with private tutors now that, are educators ultimately with journals. So it's starting to sort of, expand.
Wow, brilliant. So, hi there. I just wanted to share with you all why London School of Digital Business is doing this great people interview series. Well, for the last few years, small and medium businesses have been facing lots of challenges. Individuals have been wondering what's going to happen to their careers because of these emerging trends and technologies, artificial intelligence, VR, AR. What's going to happen? It feels as if the world is changing. And then COVID hit, and there is a lot of depression in the minds of people. So we thought we need to bring in some positivity, bring in some motivation and inspiration. And it's all good to know these stories of, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. But we wanted to talk about the extraordinary stories of the people that you get to see in the ordinary world. They are no way ordinary people. They are great people, but they are the ones you can relate to. Hence, we thought this is something that we want to bring in to increase the chances of success for many, motivate them, give them the insights. I'm so happy to share that every leader has shared completely unique and different insights because their situations have been different. Somebody was alone, and we know that entrepreneurs are alone at the top and how it feels, and they fought their challenges. Somebody had partnership, business partners, and somebody could not survive the business partnership, so they had to rebuild themselves. Somebody thought, well, I could have done this differently if I was to go back in time. So every insight is so unique. I must thank all the people who shared their journeys, and I'm sure this will help you all succeed in life, increase the chances of your success, as well as reach there faster, and of course, achieve happiness in life. Thank you for listening. We understand what you do and what you have been doing as a professional activity all these years, 25 plus. Now, here is a lighter section of the interview where we would try to know you as a person. Okay. So a few rapid fire questions. If you were to go back in time, what would you have done differently?
Wow, that's a great question. I think I would have had less fear. I think I would have been a bit more innovative in my earlier years and done something, earlier. A lot of people will go to work and work for an employer and get a wage. And whereas I think if you're creative and innovative at whatever age, my advice would be just go for it. So if I was talking to my younger self now, I would say take a little bit more risk and learn on the way. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what do you like to do over the weekend?
Another good question. I love enjoying family time. So with my wife and my son, we love walking in the countryside. Yeah, so fresh air, fitness activity, just really enjoying family time
So,
as much as I can.
who all are there in your family? Who all are there in your family?
Oh, I see. Very small. So my wife, Pam, and my son, Dylan, just the three of us.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite holiday destination?
Favorite would, we went on, so again, we're going back now plus 20 years. But we went to the Maldives. We were very, very fortunate to go to the Maldives for our honeymoon. We've not been able to go back since. Can't afford it really, but that was it's just a stunning location, wonderful, beautiful cluster of islands. But I guess traditionally we go to Cornwall in the UK.
Yeah,
Quite a bit. It's beautiful part of the UK if you've not been. And Mallorca as well. We do like Mallorca as well. Yeah.
So yeah, we're coming to the last and conclusion part of the interview. Tell us what's your ultimate goal or vision?
Okay. Yeah. Well, as you know, I'm a passionate believer in utilizing technology for social good. And I think there's a lot more that could be done by joined up technology to benefit individuals.
Right.
There are some wonderful initiatives out there at the moment and some fantastic innovations happening, but it needs to be joined up. It needs to be better enabled to benefit the individuals that they're supporting. So that ultimately my end goal is to ensure that that's done, certainly with our systems and processes, but to benefit as many people as we can, really.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, tell us who inspires you.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think I certainly think Jeff Bezos has to be given due credit for what he's achieved. I remember the notion of Amazon as a bookshop, thinking this is never going to, at the time,
Yeah.
I thought this is never going to work. A bookshop online. Why would people buy books online? Genuinely, and look what happened, because he had an ultimate vision, an ultimate goal, and it wasn't at all about selling books. It was a much bigger, wider vision.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at that achievement now, it has to be praised. And similarly, we've got a huge vision, and our development board is very large. So yeah, so Jeff Bezos is one person. There's lots, Sachin. I mean, I love what you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are so many inspirational personalities around us. However, I must say that, for us at London School of Digital Business, you are equally an inspiration, because you are, and the likes of you who are actually doing a lot of meaningful stuff in the real world. So, hats off to, people like you.
Well, that's very kind. I'm truly humbled.
Well, the last point, if you would like to give any advice to the entrepreneurs and students and other audience who are all watching this interview.
Yeah, I think for students, I would say carry on learning, learn as much as you can, and don't be afraid to ask questions. There are no silly questions, and ask for help, ask along the way, because people are really helpful. One thing I will say is when I started After Cloud, we had no advisory board, and now we have an advisory board in all of the countries we serve. So Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, America,
Wow.
and a really notable advisory board in each of those. And they're esteemed, you know, these are wonderful people doing wonderful things. And it was just a case of asking, and people are really, really helpful. So I give praise and thanks to all my advisors and all my advisory boards, and I'm thankful for them. But for students, I would say ask, because unless you do, people won't know that they can assist or can help. And as I say, people are really, really helpful in that respect. And I think for innovators, I would suggest stay in stealth as long as you can. Don't give too much away, because there will be copycats out there trying to mimic what you do. But go for it. And don't be afraid to make mistakes, because you will learn from them. As long as you learn from those mistakes, there will be a benefit. So just go for it. If you're an innovator and you've got an idea, absolutely go for it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Darren. And I think your advice is really valuable. I'm sure, you know, audience is going to love this interview. Definitely I did. And in spite of doing all, you know, these interviews, so many of them by now, I still feel, you know, this interview had a lot of fresh things to talk about, a lot of new things to discuss. And I feel, you know, I'm back to my first interview again. And so insightful. You know, I'm really pleased that, you know, you could make this time for us.
It's an absolute pleasure, Sachin, and you know, all the students that go through the London School of Digital Business, I wish every success to as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Cheers. Bye for now.
Take care.